And apparently we're live. Or at least it's thinking about it. Okay, hi everybody. What a crowd. Everybody is hunkered down trying to get prepared for minus tens of degrees below zero. So our attendance is a little slack today.
All these thin-blooded people in the world.
Actually, you're lucky, man. Tennessee seems to be one of the warmer climes on the continent.
Yeah, I think we're only supposed to get down to like 0.
Oh. Time to
Our
work
winter,
on your tan.
our winter was last week. It's milder this week. It's almost t-shirt weather, which is a worry, but it's wet.
Seeing some really severe, like minus 40, minus 50 with wind chill all the way around the country here. So, oh, good Lord.
Sanity. Very cool. So, not a lot more exciting going on this week, I guess.
Well,
People are starting to see the double EAT?
Yeah.
Yet
another name change.
It's something to put people to write column inches about. I haven't really looked into it yet. It's just adding something with E on the front, wasn't it?
And somebody finally started posting some charts on websites that have been losing traffic due to the spam update.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I saw that because it's really not affecting much. And again, we've said this so many times in the past, they'll roll something out and then start to dial it up and see what happens.
Well,
So yeah, with something like this, and certainly, we look back in the day when Penguin came along and stuff, the ones that are getting hit, you don't hear from them.
No.
Of course not. It's for people like Lily Ray to show us graphs, because she's obviously got access into all sorts of bits and pieces, and she can find this stuff. But and she put some graphs up with some interesting drops, but it could be other things we don't know. Here comes Terry.
Yeah, I always laugh because the people that tend to complain were the people who knew they were pushing the boundaries anyway.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like being in NASCAR and getting caught for cheating. It's like, well, you are cheating. That's kind of the point. We've just finally caught you. And the excuse is, well, other people do it. It's like, well, and they probably will get caught as well. You want to speed up the process, turn them in.
Tell that to the judge.
Yeah. Exactly. That don't think that's going to work too well at the bench.
Yeah. What I just am amazed by is because the two updates were overlap, people don't know how to troubleshoot it, like how to determine which one it was. Well, look at your links. If it's not links, what is it then? Jesus. I mean, I'd like to see them try and fix a car. Well, they could do that because you hook it up to diagnostics, then it tells you all the problems. I mean, like, what if they had to do it old style mechanic way? They wouldn't know whether to shit or wind their watch.
Yeah, top off the brake fluid because it's missing on one cylinder,
Yeah.
But on the other side of that coin, I know a lot of old mechanics like me who won't work on anything newer than like 1974.
Nope.
I
Right.
have no desire to learn a whole new stack of skills. I'll just keep buying old cars.
Yeah. More dependable, probably, in the long run.
Well, there's certainly a lot more fun and a lot more unique to look at.
But if you get out on the road and there's a problem, a lot of times you can fix it, where the other ones, you're just dead. Call the tow truck.
My default toolbox when I had my 72 Maverick when I was a kid was duct tape and wire and a connector, because you could fix most things with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a similar way, good analogy, that with people not wanting to go to Mastodon from Twitter because they don't want to learn something new. And I always sit there and think, how do they get onto Twitter in the first place then? At some point, they must have learned something new to get onto that. But there's a lot of that, people not wanting to go to another social service because they don't mind the one that they're on is burning down. And it's still going at the moment. And some people are who were starting to show their face on Mastodon have gone back to Twitter. See what happens.
Yeah, there's that. And what's the other one? Post.news. I expect we'll see a lot more social sites rolling out again now that Twitter's on the edge. And we'll be back to the old days of having to register on every single platform just to stake out your brand, just in case it takes off. And I'm okay with that. It's not terrible. You know, if nothing else, at least it gives me some links to my website.
So I was thinking again today about that chat bot thing, or chat GPT or whatever it's called. All these SEOs who are claiming, well, Google's going to go and start using that. Do you really realize that you'll be out of a job if they do it? Like, it destroys a whole industry pretty well. And these clowns don't realize it. Like, to me, it's baffling. Like, just like baffling. Like, I don't know.
I read an interesting article a few days ago from somebody who is not in the SEO industry, is in marketing, and he wrote how he's looking at OpenAI as being a new search engine that will push Google out of the way. And I just laughed. No way, it's just not good enough. I mean, you can't, I mean, at the moment it's trained on information, the information goes up to 2021, but I think the new one that's just coming out can start to pick up live material. But if you say, what time is my local shop open? That's not going to be in a large database, is it?
No.
Yeah. There's that.
That's why Google's gone all over the place with all the different sort of feature snippets and stuff they're doing. They're collecting that sort of information. They are light years ahead of what's going on. They know exactly what's going on. They've got their own bits and pieces. They can see where it's going. And don't forget, the guys who's in charge of Google, who took over search quite a few years ago, came from an AI department. And at the time, I was like, that's interesting. And we got RankBrain out of that to start with at the back. And that's not going to be the end of it. There's going to be loads more stuff. We've got other stuff recently come out as well, haven't we? As well. But yeah, they're ahead of the game. They're not going to disappear.
Well, they actually, had to fire a guy because he said their AI chatbot was sentient. I mean,
that guy was kind of borderline crazy anyway.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
So far,
every industry has a couple of those, though. We ran into them, right, Steve?
Yeah. Well, so far for me, like the best use for chat AI was like what Lily Ray posted a day or two ago, where she's using it to build regex filters, and it builds them correctly. And I hate regex. It is a pain in the ass. It makes no sense. And being able to go to chat AI and go, I want to do this, and it just spits out the regex for you to copy and paste. Yeah. That is going to save. I mean, from a programming point of view, a little more evolution. It's like, I want a PHP module that does this.
Yeah. That's a static training set too.
There was a great meme cartoon about it's like artificial intelligence, and it had a bunch of artists all crying, and then it said artificial intelligence, and it had a bunch of programmers going, oh, thank God, finally. So I guess it really does depend on what your job is as to whether or not you want to embrace the AI that's coming.
I wonder how long it's going to be before somebody tries Chat GPT, design me a WordPress plugin compatible with version blah, blah, blah that will do this.
I'm pretty sure that's happened already.
Oh,
It may
yeah,
have.
for sure. Oh, yeah. Because of the WordPress documentation, Doc, it'd be easy to.
Oh, yeah, so it's all
to
wide
do
open, yeah.
that.
Yeah. No, I
And
think
that's the kind of things people don't understand, that, you know, there's a guy who was chatting up how Chat GPT told him all about the World Cup, and it turned out it had Argentina winning the most ever, and it only won 3, and 3 other countries had won more. And the guy was saying that's why AI was so great. And someone pointed out that, all the information is wrong. So
Yep.
it's just wrong.
I've been doing some experimenting with it though. I've grabbed some content off some pages and asked the Chat API to basically summarize it so that I can then turn that into meta descriptions. And yeah, it was pretty good. Pulled out the stuff on the content I gave it, so I've checked about half a dozen pages on one particular site, and I'm sitting back and seeing what happens. I'm using SEOtesting.com to check the difference between it. And I think, well, if Google's going to rewrite stuff, it might be worth poking around at this sort of thing to see what I could have in there instead. Summarizing big pages and stuff like that is good, because you can just do it very quickly and go, right, there you go.
And you could use it, actually. You give it the top 10 pages in a query, summarize each page, and then you know what those pages talked about, their point of view, and you can make something unique out of that, out of those summaries, by just seeing what the other top documents were talking about, which, you know, that's a good use for it. But having it write that afterwards is not. It's good for research. If you try and have it write for you, you're an idiot. Sorry, I have no better way to describe it.
That's why I'm testing it.
Pardon me?
That's why I'm testing it, because I let it write these meta descriptions. I'm going to see what comes back, see what happens. Because what I think is going to happen in 2023 is that there's going to be an explosion of content on the web by people using AI to write it for them, and it will be better than spinning content, but it will be potentially wrong. But they won't care about that, because they'll get traffic in, because
Yeah, exactly.
they'll be able to test stuff and see if it brings the traffic or not. And to a certain extent, it could mean a lot of trouble for the search engines. So hopefully they've got things in there that can detect the content that has been AI generated and discount it. We'll see.
The other day, I wanted to do some research on that. So I tried to figure out what the relationship between Google and the fact-checking organization. There is one, and they have sponsored them, but they haven't actually partnered or given them work. I think that's the next step, that they just pull them in as fact-checking their knowledge graph. Because just think, if they're pulling shit off the internet to put in the knowledge graph, they're going to have to fact check it now, because they don't know what's being written by AI. So they'll have to fact check it.
But that doesn't mean humans can't write the wrong things.
Oh, of course.
I wouldn't go as far to say that. I agree with you there.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. And quite often people will write stuff because they've seen it in a film. The film's completely wrong. It doesn't reflect history, but people think that's the canon. So and that's the problem then, is they've written something and then the AIs are going out and reading it and say, oh, that's been written by somebody. Dang, that must be true. They're not probably saying that that's not true. That's something which we found and is in our large language model, and it gets in, and it's going to take a lot of people to sift through the stuff and see what's right. So the EAT teams that check the sites and stuff, that may well grow. That may be everybody's job in 10 years' time.
The other thing that when people think about like that kind of a bot replacing search, how do you monetize it? Do they actually think you can have millions of people coming to a website and it doesn't cost very much money? Geez, I sometimes wonder if these people really understand how the internet works.
To the extent where their job probably is to get traffic to a site, and they'll do that by just writing loads and loads of content. Don't care what it is, as long as it brings the clickbait stuff to sell advertising, and that's where they're getting the money from. I look at the red top newspaper stuff; it's awful. Most of the content in there, it looks like it's been written by AI. It's written by people who are trying to chuck out 10 stories a day, as opposed to researching something for a week and putting it out. Yeah, it's already going on, but not to the degree it's going to go on next year, because of the fact that we've got this ability to produce a huge amount more content.
Yeah, well, I'm not one who thinks that it's gonna fly.
No, it's not going to fly. I think it's going to be a massive problem. It's going to, certainly for SEOs. Like, as long as we're doing our job properly and everything we've always said about writing good content, etc., we will beat the others, beat those AI generated pieces. But for the search engines, it's going to be a problem filtering all that stuff out.
Well, search engines couldn't identify real doctors from fake doctors when creating content. I mean, I know, good Lord, for the 15 years ago, I know of people who were making up doctors and doctors' names and claiming all these things and then writing content under that doctor's name, and built up a significant level of fake expertise on these websites to sell supplements and shit like that. And, I knew for a fact these things were made up because, I worked with those people, but Google had them as the source for some of this information. And it's like, wow, if you only knew the kind of stuff people are willing to do to make a buck.
But the people that you were working for, Steve, I bet you these days, based on what I kind of know, they would be looked at as enthusiasts.
Oh, yeah. Well, except for the fact, we help them cash out.
Oh, okay.
right now, they sit on a beach most of the day and just relax and enjoy themselves, which is also not a bad thing. No, I just, having worked on the darker side of the internet for so many years, and being associated with people who are even deeper into it than I am, I'm constantly amazed about what people believe that when they read it on the internet. It baffles me how it happens.
That's why we have a big industry doing it, because people are stupid.
And
People
the bad
want to
thing is, a
believe
lot of them
what
are
they
stupid
want to
by choice.
believe. Doesn't matter if it's true or not.
Yeah.
Oh, they're lazy. It's just easier to abdicate any thought process to somebody else than to have to actually use my brain cells myself.
Yeah, that's a lot of it.
That is.
And I've got a niece who is finishing up a PhD, and she gets into these arguments online, and they're like, "What did you do? Research that on Google?" And she goes, "Well, that and my PhD." And it's amazing how many people still won't believe. It's like, oh, well, that doesn't mean anything. I read somewhere else, something else. And
Yeah.
I choose to believe that one over this one. And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. That's really, for me, my best friend's kind of like, let's say, I've come to think that he's wandering, he's reading the wrong websites. And
Never met a conspiracy theory he didn't like.
Oh my, like never heard one he didn't like. If it was negative against the government, it doesn't necessarily have to be true. When he starts calling our government communist, I said, you ever talk to a Chinese person from China or a Russian? You wouldn't be saying that.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
shift back to social a little bit, I've been watching all these people freak out that Twitter has decided they're not going to let you share links to Mastodon and a few other sites. And they're all losing their shit. And I'm like, but that's what almost all forums were like forever.
Yep.
You couldn't be on one forum and say, hey, come see me over on this other forum.
Yeah.
That was the fastest way to get banned, was to do shit like that. And now it's like, of course they're not going to let you sit on their platform and tell other people that this platform sucks, go over here. Why would they allow that? I don't understand.
I don't understand that either.
It did. There was a massive upspike to people registering with Mastodon when that happened, the biggest so far, and that surprised me. I didn't think something like that would trigger a mass exodus or people doing it, but maybe it's because people thought this is the beginning of the end, another beginning of the beginning of the end, and
Right.
People have basically got themselves a lifeboat just in case.
Like, Musk has killed it. Like, if he doesn't have advertisers, it ain't going to be around long, because no one's going to pay him enough money to keep it going without advertising. And
They weren't
most of
paying
them-
enough money to begin with.
Well,
Twitter was losing money.
right. But my thing is that they're leaving mass exodus from this platform. And I heard on CNBC when they talk to people in who actually have the budgets and run the companies, what's happening on Twitter, what he's advocating, his version of free speech isn't flying with these executives. They're like, we're not going to take a chance to advertise there, because of all the wokeism and all the other, he's appropriate all the nonsense that, just gets me fucking fighting words,
Yeah, well, there's some stuff we'll talk about off camera because I don't need to get canceled either.
I ain't worried. My favorite song is by this songwriter. It's called "Why Don't You Cancel Me."
Oh, there you go. No, I know it's it's just anecdotal because it's just me, because I signed up for Mastodon long before any of this happened. I had a Mastodon account a long time ago,
Right.
and I watched the quote exodus from Twitter to Mastodon. I saw a slight uptick in posting, but it was basically people copying what they were posting on Twitter.
Right.
They were dual posting, which I understand, but I'm already seeing a downtick in traffic and stuff on Mastodon because it's kind of a pain in the ass. It's hard to find people. I mean, going around and finding people who I follow on Twitter, finding them on Mastodon can be a total pain in the ass, simply because of the federation side of it. And then you've got to copy links and you can't just click. It's just a pain in the ass.
Well, this is one of the reasons that Twitter's started to ban the links in the bios, etc., because there are third-party services who you can run your Twitter handle on, and it will search through all your followers and people you follow and bring back all where they are on Mastodon and stuff. I've used it a few times, literally once a week. There's a brilliant one that I used a couple of times, and you can just go through the page and click the ones you haven't followed. It just does it for you. It's very, very good.
Nice.
So there are things like that happening, but I think people are, and I've said this before, thinking that Mastodon is a Twitter replacement. That's the wrong attitude.
It's a different platform.
It is different. I mean, there's lots of similarities, but it is quite different. But the really interesting thing for me is, because it's part of the Fediverse, is all the other things potentially come into that. So there are photo sharing things like Flickr, but done on the same basis of Mastodon, where you can actually then feed very easily and very quickly into other parts of the Fediverse as such. And I think we are going to see an explosion in this. I think it's hit a tipping point where people have got excited and interested in it. And there are a lot of developers that I follow in there now, and they're looking at this and all the potential, the APIs that are going on. potential is just enormous. And I think people are realizing what it can potentially do. The German government are shifting all their departments onto Mastodon, doing their own instances. And that's how they're going to talk to the German people.
So, and that's a good example of a great use for Mastodon is local governments setting up their own Mastodon server, companies setting up their own Mastodon servers, newspapers. All of our reporters are here. If they're on here, then they are our reporter. They're not somebody pretending to be one. And that's a really cool use of it. Because from what I understand, running a Mastodon server is not that hard. It's a pretty straightforward setup.
Not if you get it hosted for you. There's a couple of places that do the hosting for you. They're running the back end bit, and you have to just tick a few things. So yes, it's not. I'm not sure that if you want to run it on your own server and build it in the first place, that it's going to be quite as easy. You need to know what you're doing.
I figure anybody large enough to think about having one probably has an IT team that can spin one.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to set one up for my farm.
No, you're right. Well, it seems like the German government, they're going to go to their development team, and they're going, well, the guys over in the corner there, they're the Linux guys, and they're going to be absolutely delighted that they're not doing something like building some system for housing benefit or something. They're going to build a social media service and stuff. So, they can do that. I like the newspaper idea. Where you can basically, I like this newspaper, like the people that report about this stuff. The Verge are on there, apparently. Loads of reporters in the Verge are on there. They've got their own instance. Just go and follow that instance and follow people. But you're right, there is an issue. A lot of people are not finding stuff quickly and easily. I've noticed this week there is a plugin we potentially could have on the server I'm on that gives a better search thing. And I think that's something that will come.
I see this. Mastodon feels a lot like the early days of FidoNet in the BBS world, when we were first starting to link all the BBSs across the world and pushing data across. Obviously it's wildly different technology, but the feel is the same. Everybody's running their own service and then sharing their service with other people, and it just takes time for one to get its feet wet enough to have enough people and enough input on what features are wanted and needed. And I can see it. I can see it being a good thing. I don't think it'll ever be Twitter.
Oh no, I don't think so. Even if Twitter collapses, as long as it keeps going, I can't ever see the Fediverse overtaking it.
No,
because it's just huge. 240 million compared with, I think we're almost up to 9 million on Mastodon now. So it's that's not active people. It's about 2.5 million active, I think.
I don't see Twitter ever going away. I do see somebody taking an opportunity for a massive tax write-down when they sell it off for pennies on the dollar. Just saying, not that this would be a tax thing at all, but especially when you're using other people's money, it's not a bad way to do things. But
well, you say that I believe the Saudis heavily invested.
Yeah.
Don't really want to upset them too much.
No, I don't know. I don't care enough about other people's politics to have somebody, because so-and-so owns something, it's not a reason for me to not be there. I'm still there, but I'm not going to leave because I think it's important. It's funny because I see more politics on Twitter now than ever. I never saw politics on Twitter before. And now I see all the people complaining about it. It's like, how did this all become a thing?
But you don't even have to be following those people or the people, like their stuff is coming randomly that you shouldn't get. Period.
Yeah.
That's the new algorithm, I guess.
Well, that's the algorithm that's gone wrong.
It's an improvement. It's like terrible.
I imagine very much that they think it's an improvement because it's probably bringing in more ad revenue, or was. And I think, for me, the politics took off when Trump ran for president. It all changed at that point. And then from that point onwards, it's just been horrible. It wasn't what it was. And
Well,
the same could happen to any thing. Mastodon may go that way. I hope not. But we've got more control over it because we can say, no, we don't like that sort of thing. Block it.
Yeah. Well, it's like one of the forums that still exists that I'm on. We have one area for politics and religion. If you talk about politics or religion anywhere else on that website, but that area, you're out. There is no second warning. There is no, it's like, look, here's this clearly defined area. If you want to go talk about that stuff, there it is.
Yeah.
And I just keep that folder minimized so I don't see it. It's like, I don't care. You guys can argue about this all you want. And
That's a good way of doing it.
Unfortunately, with a lot of the social media things and the way they want to promote discovery, they're going to push topics that get a lot of chatter back and forth, and they're usually topics I don't ever want to see. It's like, no, I don't care about these things, at least not to the point that I want to see them and talk about them on Twitter.
But when you see all the negative comments about those kind of things coming into a person's stream, you would think somebody in Twitter management would put 2 + 2 = 4, not 5.
Well, there's nobody left in Twitter management. They all got fired.
Well, I'm talking about the management, but there is a management. It's one guy who's, I believe, deranged.
I want to see his Chat GPT question of how do you run a large social media platform.
The thing that I find amusing about that is we're seeing now how hip pocket management style of his causes him to make knee-jerk decisions without basing them on any research or analysis or input from other people. And I find it kind of amusing to think that I wonder how many of the folks at Tesla, for instance, among other companies, have been putting up with the same kind of garbage all along, but keeping their mouth shut. Because if that's his style, that style was not born a couple months ago. That's been his style for a long time. And I mean, I couldn't work for somebody like that. If you're just making snap, pull something out of my ass decisions, no, I'm sorry. I don't need to be here. And I'm sure a lot of fucking people feel the same way.
I bet the people in Tesla are delighted that he's not there at the moment.
Yeah.
His announcement that he's been looking for a new CEO, which he had this poll, and he said he'll stick by it. But he announced 2-3 weeks before that he was going to be looking for CEO anyway. So this is not exactly new. If the poll had gone saying, we want you to stay, then he could say, oh, well, maybe I don't need to. But it was a decision he'd already made, and could have been made for him by his backers and stuff, who were watching things nosedive. They're losing their money. They'll say, you're still the owner, but bring somebody in. And I think if and when he finds somebody to do the job, and lots of conjecture about what sort of person that may be, but that may bring some stability in the platform without him interfering. Because whoever comes in and goes, this is a shit show, we need to stop all this going on. Let's roll these things out properly in time and make sure the thing works, rather than just making on the spot decisions about stuff.
Right.
How can you work with somebody who makes on the spot decisions to build a rocket to send people into space?
There's a great story about SpaceX, why his rocket is pointy than the others. And it all comes down to a movie. I forget what the name of the movie is, where a bunch of comedians were going to go kill the president of North Korea. And when he was looking at his rockets, he wanted them pointier because it looked more dangerous. And that's the only reason. He thought it was funny, and they did it, and it had a negligible effect on the aerodynamics. So why not? And those kinds of decisions aren't made like that at NASA.
Yeah. Well, but the other thing is, people hate him just because he's rich. Okay.
Well, yeah.
And which I think is asinine. But as deranged as some of his managerial behavior appears, he's also brilliant. I mean, look at, for instance, recovering these launch vehicles.
Mhm.
This is something that was dreamed about since Buck Rogers, the first edition of Buck Rogers came out,
Yeah.
vertical
Yeah.
landing rockets. And all of a sudden, what do you know? It can be done, and it can be done pretty consistently. And it saves a lot of money. It saves a lot of time. It saves a lot of resources. So,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, he's rich. Yeah, he's not the most stable manager in the world, but he's also brilliant, and he's not afraid to
Oh, yeah.
fail.
I
You
mean,
know, which-
and it's not like he actually did the math, but he
No,
put the people in place who could do the math and said, here's what I want you to do. Go do this thing. And I mean, people like my wife excel in those environments.
no.
She doesn't want to make the big decisions. She wants, give me a target and then leave me alone. And for the most part, that seems to be what he does on the engineering side of things. Twitter's a whole different animal. Twitter's just it's a playground. It's somewhere where, I would like to think he made an offhand comment and then got roped into following through. When, it's like, I'm going to buy Twitter. And it's like, okay, well, go ahead and buy Twitter. And
Exactly what happened.
He should have
And-
paid the fine and just backed out.
that would have been a better solution, is to pay the fine and not do it. And then still
But-
stand on the sidelines and complain about how they're doing such a horrible job.
But didn't he try to do that?
Well, he
they
did.
stopped
He
it.
realized how much money it was going to cost him to not be, to not buy it.
It's going to cost him a hell of a lot more to buy it.
Yeah.
He's going to lose a hell of a lot more than that. What was it? Was it 2 billion? I think was the fine.
Something like
Yeah.
Which is, to me and you, that's a lot of money. But his net worth is down about 3/4 now in the last few months.
Yeah.
So
I saw an interesting idea the other day. The person that owns Twitter should be the richest person in the world. So he is not the richest person in the world anymore. Whoever that is should buy Twitter.
Yeah.
And then whoever's the richest person in the world buys Twitter, screws it up, loses money, and the next one comes to the money, does it? And that's a good way of keeping people not being despots.
redistribution of
yeah.
wealth, eh?
Yeah.
What wasn't that John Rockefeller's whole thing was, now that I've made all this money, let's see how I can give it away. And that was his challenge to other ultra rich people. It's like, it doesn't matter how much money you've made. It matters how much good you can do with it.
Well, exactly.
And I mean, well, personally, I have issues with a whole lot of different rich people. A whole lot of different rich people have created some very big good for the world.
Yes.
So I don't know.
Some of his buddies, billionaire buddies, invested in it too. So he
Yeah.
didn't just lose his money, he lost theirs too. I don't think they'll be friends for very long.
Well, he's
I
losing
don't
his
think they
credibility.
care.
Uh,
I think at a certain point, the amount of money you win or lose or have or don't have becomes a non-issue.
yeah, that's true. When you're talking that amount.
Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, well, that sucks.
Well, nobody wants to lose 50 billion, but if you still got 100 billion,
Yeah.
I won't have to go on a diet. I won't be eating macaroni and cheese for the next 6 months.
Right.
Any money you lose, they'll write it off on taxes.
I still feel like Elon Musk is still a lot like Zorg on Fifth Element.
I think he's a fake, a guy who's gotten by so far, but he ain't as smart as people think, personally.
I don't know. He's kind of worked his ass off and been right place at right time multiple times, and that
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
happen by accident.
He's no idiot, and he's certainly not lazy.
But I think we've hit on the key point for me by several things that have been said. One was rockets being able to land. That was such a leap in technology and understanding how to do it that it's almost like a wartime effort.
Yeah.
Progress really zooms up in war, which suggests to me that working for him is like being at war. It's a war footing. And he will just shout at you, do this, and so we can't do it because, but no, I don't care, get it done, or you're out, and it's kind of like that. And
Like
that's
working for
why he
Steve
gets stuff
Jobs
done.
back in the day.
Oh, exactly.
Say again, Steve?
It's like working with Steve Jobs back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
You weren't allowed to say no.
Yeah.
He come in, he said, I want these things. And you say, okay.
Figure
you
out
do
how
it.
to do it afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't say that he's not a brilliant engineer, but he should have stuck to that, not because his people skills are shit. I mean,
You can say that about pretty much all of us in the tech field.
well,
That's true.
I was going to say you could say that about all four of us too, but
Well, at least 3 out of 4 of us. We'll let everybody else figure out who's the one.
Well, I'm guessing the only one that could be any good is in sales.
I don't know. I don't have enough money to care anymore.
Yeah.
It's either end of the spectrum, isn't it? You've got so much money you don't care, or you've got none, you don't care.
My whole goal these days is sell cows.
There you go. Has anybody played at all with this new? It came out. Glenn Gabe posted something about it. Came out. Google India initially. The ability to do a search on YouTube in a video for a particular.
No, I read that. But
Barry Schwartz published something saying that it would find a smidgen of speech, and I can't find any evidence of it being other than referencing text, like in an image or in a caption or whatever. But I haven't seen any reference to it actually being able to find a snippet of speech in a YouTube video, other
no,
than what Barry said.
I have seen in the wild when doing certain searches where in the Google search, it'll bring up a video and say, the part you want is here. And it starts the video there.
But is it closed captioned, or is it actually just?
No, it's just the video.
But aren't
Interesting.
YouTube transcribing everything anyway? And
Yeah,
they'll
they
be
are.
using that.
yeah.
They'll be
When
they
using
are.
that to do the search on. So it's
Yeah.
not really a big shift.
I thought that when they were talking about that's what it was doing. It was actually using the transcription to find what you're looking for.
It would
Which was
seem
a-
to be the most logical approach, but my God, the resources. To be able to search through even just a few thousand videos to find a particular phrase, to do that in milliseconds just seems to be next to impossible.
Yeah, but they do that with documents too. It's pretty well almost the same thing as documents.
If they've been indexing those transcripts for a long time and a hell of a database to work with, okay, I suppose it's basically the same thing, but just a massive scale.
Oh, I agree with you. It's massive scale, but I think they're used to massive scale.
Yeah.
The way to test it is turn the closed captions on something, or look at the transcript and see if they've got something wrong in the transcription, the auto transcription. Then do a search for that word that shouldn't be in there, and if it's found, then you know that's how they're doing it.
Yeah, or a
Certainly
sentence
with-
that's not in it, that's not, that's found, that they don't say, well, it's not in this.
My experience with YouTube transcriptions tells me that finding something in there that's wrong will not be a very long search.
Exactly.
That'd be pretty easy. It's
actually,
gotten better, but it ain't good.
Let me see, when Bill and I were doing webinars, I looked at the transcript, and for the most part, it was dead on. I spent more time removing the ers and m's and the stuff you don't want, like how people normally speak. It's verbatim, so that's what I found you had to edit. As far as getting words wrong, occasionally, but not a lot. And a lot of times it was the way the person said the word right, they didn't enunciate it the same.
Yeah.
The two,
Yeah.
one of the people had an accent.
Well, their auto transcription has improved leaps and bounds over the early years.
Oh, that's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
massive improvement.
This was about a year ago that I tried it out, Doc, and found it to be, hey, if I was going to do it now, you should be able to do it pretty quickly, especially if you took a program like Chat GBT and said, remove there would be a way to train it, I'm sure, that it could go through and break it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I've done that on. I did several podcasts. I started one about 6-7 years ago, and I was able to go through on the sound, on the volume thing, and not the volume, the sound wave, and just pick out where the errors were, because it was the same little thing each time. It's dead easy to strip them out. Doing that programmatically would be very easy.
That's another job that something like Chat GPT could do if it could change audio. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's stuff like that we should be looking to use it for, not write content. Like, sorry, that reminds me, the cowboys who put invisible text on a page and called it SEO. That's not SEO. That's fucking cowboy shit.
Yeah. But it worked for a
Pure
while.
amateur. It worked, but it's pure amateur stuff. It's not going to work long.
But sometimes it doesn't have to work long. That's the point.
Well, okay. But yeah, I agree. But clients should know that.
Mm-hmm. All of mine did. They were fully aware.
Steve, I know you're this dishonest guy out there.
My rule is I won't let a
Different
corporation
than
tell
mine.
me what I can and can't do.
Right.
And then it becomes a risk versus reward assessment with the client. I don't understand what the problem is with that.
I don't have a problem with that. It's the people that do it, but don't really, if you inform a client and then kind of give them the idea that, well, this doesn't apply to me because I'm so,
I know somebody at Google and I can get it. I can get it.
Yeah. Or I've been getting away with this for years. Well, What happened after a few years? What happened? Well, yeah.
Right. And you get a lot of people who are like, well, so-and-so, some other website's doing it. And they're getting away with it, but you don't know that they're getting away with it. You assume they are.
Right.
I mean, playing on the other side of the fence is a lot harder than playing on the white hat side.
Yep.
Most people can't do it.
So much harder.
In 28 years, I've met a handful of people that I say, yeah, I would be confident in the job they're doing. A handful, like there aren't many. And most of those I met in the dojo, believe it or not.
It's what happens when you grow up in the early days of affiliate marketing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But you could almost take the industry and the good guys were here and the bad guys were, the guys who were on Webmaster World, and then there was all the other places, and then there were the places where the lowlights went that I wouldn't even mention the place. It's like that.
I used to have clients that would send me, why aren't we doing this? And they would send me a link to a forum on like Wickedfire.
Yeah, that was one of the names I wasn't going to name.
And it would be a thread that was like 3 or 4 years old. And it's like, oh my God.
Wasn't there some kind of warrior forum or something?
Oh yeah, warrior forum and
Still out there.
There's
really?
a few out there.
These sites are still around?
It's not as busy as it was, but it is definitely still active.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of the folks that were really active over at Warrior Forum went to Reddit and set up their own subreddit and
Yeah.
play in that field. Because they
Yeah.
got tired of the bullshit. But somebody over there at Warrior Forum took over all the moderation and the rules and everything and changed everything and started getting a hard ass on some shit. Unless you happen to be a friend, and they just kind of shined it on, and that
Oh,
pissed
yeah.
a lot of people
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, that always works well.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, been there, done that.
No. Terrible, terrible people. We're just horrible. We ruin everything.
Yeah, marketers ruin everything.
Mentioning SEO stuff, I did notice today somebody had pulled up that on the SERPs in Google, if you click the three little buttons and go through to the more information stuff, there's some interesting bits they're putting in there now about information about the person or the website that you looked for, and then underneath that, information from other people. And I just happened to look at the New York Times because I was trying to get past their paywall and I was seeing if they had the cash. I went through that and it's got some interesting stuff from them, New York Times, blah, 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 this and that. And, and then underneath, it's somebody has cleverly got into the list saying why you should unsubscribe from the New York Times as being one of the top ones in there. Very, very interesting. I can't remember who it was, but it was a rival. So that's new, but it's unlikely anybody will ever see it. So you go through to those three little ones. Only SEOs.
If you just say, if you look at what they doing with this site classifier and some of the other stuff, that's where they could be using it, is
Yeah, I think you're
to
right.
put experience in the, so that people know before they go to a link whether the person is an enthusiast or an expert.
Indeed.
So I wanted to nominate for most useless page ever released by a company, Google's search status dashboard.
Oh, yes.
And it's simply a 7-day running window of, have our services gone down, yes or no? And it's like, why? I don't understand. Was there really that many people that upset when like crawling
My
or
guess is
indexing had an issue?
it's to give people something to send a link to other people with. Just Google down there, here's a link, go and check yourself.
Yeah. For all the people who are complaining about indexing being down or crawling being down or whatever. I mean, personally, I would have, as Google, I would have just put this chart up there and just never update it, except for the dates that crawl across the top. No, our stuff never goes down.
It does look a bit like that at the moment, doesn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
what can I learn from this graph? Not a lot.
Well, if they're not crawling anybody, what's the difference?
Yeah. I'm just waiting for it to actually have some information on it so we can see what it looks like populated versus blank.
Luck with that. They may do away with it before it gets to that point.
Oh, you can bet.
Or at least rename it.
Or, yeah.
Well, they rename everything monthly, didn't you know that's like, they have a guy who's in charge of renaming everything.
Right.
Heaven forbid people actually be able to remember the name all the time without checking.
Well, like for instance, Google Business Profile that used to be Google My Business. Okay, it's totally forgivable if somebody that's referred to it as Google My Business for a few years slips and forgets it's now the business profile. Okay, I understand that. I've done it myself. But some of what's the one that they just did? The look.
Oh, they changed
Looker.
Data Studio to Looker.
Yeah, Looker.
Yeah.
What the hell?
What were they smoking when they came up with that?
I still don't understand why they came up with the name Looker.
Yeah.
I want to see what was rejected.
Yeah, if
There
that
you
was
go.
the best one to choose from, there must have been some real doozies in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to see that too. That might be interesting.
Rhymes with
Um,
what?
and I'm going to forgive people for calling it Data Studio for at least 10 years.
Yeah.
Because you say look at somebody, they go, what are you talking about? It's gonna, yeah, if you say Data Studio 10 years time, they know exactly what you're talking about.
Did you
If-
see
if-
they recently shut down the question hub?
No,
You know what that was? Well, we got enough information to train what we needed, so y'all
Yeah,
can
thank
just
you.
go stuff it. You know, thank you.
I just assumed that Looker Studio was like another membership platform program for like Pornhub.
You talk to clients, or we'll do you a dashboard on Looker. What the hell is Looker?
Yeah.
I know we don't want to be associated with that. Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. They also shut down Web Lite, of which I think I got one hit once.
What was that?
In Search Console, there was a bit where you could get through and see whether Web Lite was running, and it was designed for newspapers to do an abbreviated version of the content. And one of my sites got picked up on it once or twice, and I don't know why. But yeah, they've shut that last week.
A lot
So
of
you
stuff
don't-
will be getting shut down. They're gonna have some money problems next year, I would think. Not
Well,
big problems, but they'll have to cut some freebies and start charging for some stuff.
Yes, that would be highly likely.
Top of the hour.
Analytics, as we say, analytics will be one of the first to go with J4. They'll probably start charging for that fairly quickly. Now they've got all the data they need. We'll see. Top of the hour, indeed it is, Doc, and it is Christmas weekend. I'm assuming we're not going to meet next week.
Uh,
I won't be around next week. At least I don't think I will be.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
generally
either.
take that week off too.
yeah, okay. So let's just skip next week. I'll drop something in the forum.
In which case, Merry Christmas to all
Yeah.
of you and all the viewers, and a Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Yeah, see you in the new year.
Try
Indeed.
to stay defrosted.